Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Keeping Up with Kean. I'm your host, Thais, and over the next few weeks, we'll be sitting down with some of the most amazing staff from Kean University's Office of Admissions who work year-round to help make the process of applying to the university an exciting and informative experience for all of our prospective students and their families that are interested in our campus and the Kean University community. Not only will we be meeting and talking to some of the most departments, directors, and counselors, but we will also be sitting down and getting to know some of the student ambassadors who work with the department and hear a variety of their experiences, not only as student workers, but as Kean students here at Kean. I'm personally very excited to get to sit down and talk with some of our guests today and just get to know what actually happens behind the scenes in an admissions department. So let's get into it and meet our very first guest, Associate Director of Campus Experience, Jordan Casino. Welcome to the show, Jordan, and thank you so much for joining today. I know you are an extremely busy man, especially with the events happening in your department this semester.
Happy to be here. It's a university, so anything for the students is good for me. It's a good use of our time. I appreciate it.
Can you tell us some of the different events that will be happening over the next few months and what role they play in the admissions process for students?
Sure. So February, March, April, they're an interesting time for us because we're at a little bit of a crossroads in the life cycle of a student applying to any university. Right now, our primary focus is converting students from accepted students to enrolled students. So we call it the yield season. Most of the effort is on our freshman applicants right now, simply because they're the largest population. They would be with us for the longest period of time, so we're spending most of our time trying to convert them. By convert them, I mean host them at events like scholarship brunches, our accepted student day, dean dinners, a lot of different events that show them just who's part of that ecosystem that helps them get through hopefully their 4 years in college. And it's a great opportunity, but at the same time, since we are rolling admissions, we're also working on continuing to build that applicant pool. So we're trying to convert freshman students, we're trying to get more students to apply to CAME at the same time, and that's on top of the work that we're doing to recruit transfer students and graduate students. So it is a busy time, it's an exciting time for us, and an exciting time for our students too.
That's great. So on the actual days of open house, what would you say the energy is like on campus for your team and for the students coming to visit the campus?
So for open house and any event that we're hosting, and the open house is now maybe like about a month or so away. So we're in the point now where we're just trying to build up positive energy for the event. So I would say that it's exposing them to all the great things about campus, introducing them to other students, introducing them to the support services that are available to them. For some students, it could be their first look at Kean. For other students, it could be their accepted event if they can't make any of the other accepted events that we were talking about. So it's high energy, it's a fun environment, but it's also academically focused because at the end of the day, we're our university. It's not just fun and games in the receiving line when you show up. So that's really our opportunity to make a good first impression for a lot of students, and we do focus a lot of our efforts into high energy, positive vibes only when students show up.
No, I totally get that. And what would you say are the key elements for you to consider an event to be successful?
I mean, you're like a jack of all trades for an event, so there's like so many different things that go into it. I would say that I know whether or not an event's going to be successful like days, if not weeks, before it even starts. I think the most important element is ensuring that everybody who's involved knows the purpose of the event, who's going to the event, and what their specific role is at the event, so that they can be the best version of themselves when they're supporting the event. If you show up and you've got no idea who's going to be there, no idea what you're supposed to do, you're not exactly going to make yourself look good. If you don't make yourself look good and you're a student who's walking on campus like this person works in, XYZ office and has no idea how to help me, why would I go to Kean? So probably the most important element of the planning is ensuring that everybody's on the same page, so when they show up, they can be confident and competent when meeting our students.
Perfect. And what would you say is your role in the events that you oversee have changed over the last few years, especially with the recent pandemic?
Yeah, so like everything and nothing has changed at the same time. The, you know, pivoting to our plan during the pandemic was probably, it wasn't easy, but we had probably an easier time than other departments because we always have a plan B, C, and D. If there's bad weather, we move an event inside.
Mm-hmm.
If the RSVP list is too big for the space we have reserved, we find a different place. So we're always ready to just change gears and be flexible. So when it was like, hey, the world's ending, we were like, okay, well, how are we going to end with the world in style? And we just changed everything that we were doing. And some of those actions we still do now, and some of them is just like, that's old news, we'll never do it again. So yes, everything changed, and then everything changed back, and we took some, we were taking some things along with us, but I think I'm good for now. I don't need another pandemic.
Perfect. What is a lesson that you have learned that you wish you would have known when you were in college?
So, yeah, one thing they don't teach you in college is they don't teach you empathy. When I graduated, and I mean like real, like true, actually appreciating your counterpart empathy. When I graduated, my first job was like it was like a ticket sales job for a
Okay.
baseball team. And I'm like, I'm gonna be top salesperson. I'm gonna show up early. I'm gonna stay late. I'm gonna give all the effort that I possibly could. And this is probably gonna make me sound like a jerk, but like there were just other people who weren't giving the same effort. But I think sometimes you really just have to put yourselves in other people's shoes and just appreciate that everybody's carrying something.
Definitely.
You don't know what it is. It could be objectively like nothing, or it could be something that's seriously burdensome, and you just don't know, and everyone's got their reasons. So I feel like if I came out of school with a better appreciation for what other folks bring with them to the office every day, I probably would have been a better coworker, maybe a better person. And it's still something that, you know, just being a very competitive person now and trying to stick to deadlines, like I still have to like catch myself. But
Yeah.
if you can do that and actually stop and pause and appreciate other folks for a little while, then not only will they do more for you, but like karma will just be on your side in general.
Oh, I totally get that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, before we wrap up, I just have one more question for you. If you could share a piece of advice that you feel would benefit those of our viewers who are entering into college or their professional careers, what would it be?
You can change your mind. You're going to enroll. You're going to have a major in mind. You're going to have your career plan like all mapped out for you, and one day you're going to wake up and want to do something totally different, and that's okay. You have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, always.
And if you just step back, really think about what you want to do. If it's different tomorrow, if it's different in a couple years, if it's different 10 years down the line, that's okay. You're allowed to change your mind and try something new. I kind of take like my approach to events with like the plans B, C, and D, and I play that into just, you know, everyday life, and so far it's worked out. So I think you don't have to figure out the rest of your life when you're like 18. It's okay.
No, that's perfect. Well, Jordan, we appreciate you so much for coming in and talking with me today. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Cool. Thanks, Thais.
Thank you. And coming up next, we will get to learn a little bit about the admission process for students that find their prior institution wasn't quite a match and decide that they want to transfer to Kean.
I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid.
Knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive bud.
is the Associate Director of Transfer Admissions, Paul Singh. Hey, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to talk about transfer admissions.
So, Paul, before we get into the interview, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Sort of a little bit on sleep because of my son also kept me up till 5 a.m. But I'm very excited to be here. The energy is great. Thank you.
That's perfect. My very first question for you is, what would you say are the differences in admission process for the students that are looking to come to Kean from other institutions?
So the process with us at Kean University is very kind of direct, right? Students fill out an application, they submit their official transcripts, they get to talk to a live transfer counselor when need be. They don't have to go through like customer service where a lot of institutions have that extra layer. We, as the transfer counselors, we directly deal with our students because we want them to get that customer service.
Got it.
And then we'll ask them for documentation, but they're going to get very fast turnaround in terms of their admissions decision.
Okay. And in your opinion, what do you think are some of the factors that cause a student to want to leave their prior institution and continue their education at Kean?
That is actually a very great question because I was just talking to somebody, a colleague at another institution about that. I think when students are at other institutions, I think their biggest challenges are the barriers within that institution, right? Every institution has different processes and how you're submitting documents, what systems to use, who are the coordinators, the customer service. So all these layers tend to add challenges versus opportunity for the students. And I think that's what causes, especially transfer students. I mean, with the exception of if they're military, they're going to different institutions. But for the regular student that's going from 5 different institutions, we really have to look at that to see what are some of the challenges and how can we remove them here at Kean. And I think we do a very great job at that because, again, they're talking to their admissions counselor when they're filling out their application. But I think it's a lot of the internal processes. And I think also the big factor is a lot of transfer students tend to be transient. We like to call them like nomads, like they're going from institution to institution. But, you know, they have different journeys. They have different stories. You know, they're parents. They're taking care of elderly, especially post-pandemic. So they all have a story. We have to listen to that story and understand and obviously collect that data so we can improve what we do. But it's a multitude of things. I think the biggest one is the internal challenges and obstacles within an institution.
Got it. Okay. And what do you feel attracts students to Kean when they're looking to transfer universities?
I think it's the fact that we are a public institution in New Jersey, easily accessible. We're very big on world-class education. You know, we have campuses. I think we're the only institution that has a full-fledged campus in China, right?
Wow.
So that really sets us apart. And we have which I'm very proud to say since I started here, is diversity. Students have a sense of belonging here. And I think that with the location, again, price point is big too, right? The price point is really good for our students. And I think, they're able to get a world-class education at a great price point. So when they graduate, they're not graduating with a ton of debt, right? Versus other institutions. So they're getting all those same opportunities here.
No, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
And once a student has completed their transfer application, what can they expect to happen next?
Oh, my favorite part. That's what I do every day. So once a student submits a application, they get access to their student portal, and we just implemented a new system, which is, I like to call it student-friendly, right? So they log into this portal, they're able to check what needs to be submitted, right? And they'll see all the steps as we're updating on our end. They'll see, all right, my transcript's been received, my deposit is due, and things of those nature. So we kind of give the student I like to call it empowering the student experience and giving them the opportunity to kind of own that process. But eventually at some point, once they fill it out, we'll reach out to them with their acceptance letter, right?
Got it.
We'll review their application. If there's a portfolio for some of our programs, we'll get those reviewed. We're pretty quick with turning that around. And then finally, I think what a lot of transfer students like to know is how many credits transferred. So we like to turn that around within a few days so they'll get that email. So we're touching the student in terms of communication at every single touch point. So they're aware of what needs to be done and their acceptance letter, So.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So after the student has been admitted to Kean, what are the resources that the university has to offer to help support our transfer students?
So resources is, again, we always try to emphasize in our presentations, clubs, organizations, that sense of belonging. I always tell students, you got to be not reactive, you have to be proactive, right?
Yeah.
Part of your tuition that you're paying here at Kean, it's, one part of it is academics, but there's all these other ways to get involved on campus. And I always really kind of focus on that you have whatever time you're here at Kean University is to not just earn that degree, but to add more to your resume.
Yeah.
So join those clubs, join those organizations. If you're not comfortable publicly speaking, get into those classes where you can learn how to publicly speak. Get into the athletics.
Yeah.
Go to the amazing facilities that we have here. But really, it's make this journey about you and what you want out of it. So there's tons to do here at Kean.
Definitely.
Study
is.
abroad is always another good one. So
Yeah.
I try to promote a lot of the external stuff that they can do. That's tied to Kean.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And what would you say is your favorite part of the position?
My favorite part of the position is I love the fact that I still get to work with transfer students, and I was a transfer student, so it's very close and dear to my heart. And I think the second part is I work with a very fantastic team that's very hands-on. A lot of us are transfer, advocates for these students, right? We're also transfer students ourselves. Also, we have a great support system from our senior managers. They support the initiatives that we're trying to execute within transfer admissions. But at the end of the day, I just love the student interaction. I think that's always going to be that thing that pulls me back into admissions, enrollment management. So yeah.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Paul, before we finish up today, can you share a piece of advice that you feel can help the students that are currently in college and entering into adulthood?
Another one of my favorite questions. You guys are on a roll here. One of the things, and I just had actually a talk with a student that came to my office on Tuesday, was the power of networking and the power of LinkedIn. If you're not utilizing your networking, or if you don't have a network yet, utilize LinkedIn. Get out there, get on campus, start talking to people, get uncomfortable, because the more comfortable you are, you're not going to develop, and I can tell that from my own experience. As a transfer student, I think since I started, really post sort of during pandemic, my thought process was like, if I can't do another degree, I can treat networking like a degree.
Definitely.
Right? You can start connecting with people. Let's just say you're a communication major or you're a biology major. Go on LinkedIn and start connecting with folks that have those degrees.
Yeah.
And then see where it can take you, because a lot of those networking opportunities is what's going to lead into positions post graduation. So network, and network.
Networking, always. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for coming on the show today. I know our viewers will definitely appreciate the advice. All right, everyone. It has been great hanging out with you all. We have an exciting segment coming up next. I'm going to pass it over to my co-host over in B, where we will get to hear about the experiences so far while attending the university. Join us for Yours vs. Mine up next after these short messages.
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for? I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid.
Knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Keeping Up with Kean. I will be hosting our next segment, Yours versus Mine, where I will be reading statements out loud to our guests. If they agree, they will flip their board to the thumbs up. If they disagree, they will flip their board to the thumbs down. Both will then have a minute to elaborate on their answer. Without further ado, let's welcome our guests. Thank you for joining us. Could you please just introduce yourself with your name, your year, and your major?
Of
or
course.
majors?
Thank you for having me here. My name is Kathleen, but I often go by Kat here. I am a senior in a 5-year program, and my major is computational science and engineering, which is a STEM program.
Great. It is so nice to meet you. So now before we begin, I'm just going to explain the segment yours versus mine a bit before we start. Our goal is to learn more about your experiences while at college and here at Kean. So I'm going to read statements to you, and if you agree, you will tell me why, and if you disagree, you will also tell me why.
Sounds good.
So first question is, applying to college and picking a school was easy?
At first, it was not easy. I cannot lie to you. I remember when I was first looking at colleges, I actually called my brother, who lives out of state, and I was sobbing. And I'm like, I don't know what college I should be looking for. I don't know where to start. And he actually was the first one to sit down with me and pretty much prioritize what I was looking for in a college. I know when I was first looking, cost was definitely a big factor. Diversity was a big factor, and also location. I wanted to be close enough to home where I can go back home on the weekends if I choose, or but still be able to live on campus and get the full what they call a college experience. So yeah, it was kind of a mixture. At first, it was a little tricky, but then I made my way to it.
Great. Okay, next we have, I feel that I made the right choice in the major that I chose.
Most definitely. One thing about my major is that it's a mixture of everything in a sense. You get a lot of, or at least in terms of STEM, you get a lot of math, you get a lot of programming and computers, a lot of just like analyzing this data, which I actually really like. If anyone that knows me knows I'm a big math person, English is not my strongest subject, and I take pride in that, you know? So yeah, I think it's a nice mixture of everything. It's also one of those broader majors or newer majors where you can kind of choose the direction you want to go in.
Right.
You want to do a little more research, that's fine. You want to do a little more like office work, that's also fine. It's kind of just, up to you. So I love my major. If I had to do it all over again, I would still choose computational science and engineering.
That's great. I am involved on my campus.
I would say so. I think one thing about being that's a little misleading when coming to college, that when you tell students, oh, try to get involved, they assumed like that means, joining the basketball team and becoming, president of student gov. There's other ways you can do that while still being on campus and being involved. Over my college career, I joined different clubs like Active Minds, which is like focused on mental health. I did like art club at some point. I was part of the First Generation Club. But I also did other things like just attending events. What's something I really like about Kean is that there's always something going on. You'll never be bored here. Whether it's the Res Life during their, RA meetings or programs, or, Kean Post, like doing some like carnival event or whatever they do, there's always something to do, and there's always ways for you to meet people and have a good time. And that's something I really enjoy doing. But other than that, I am a student ambassador for the university and work in the Office of Missions, so that is just another factor in itself on ways I can be involved, between going to open houses, attending events, meeting people like the president, which is pretty cool. So yeah, just a lot of different ways that I was involved and students can be involved.
Next is, I have been able to make positive connections with my professors while at Kean.
Oh, most definitely. That's another thing about Kean that I really enjoy, is that everyone kind of knows everyone. Everyone is really nice. I know my freshman year, I was walking to one of my classes, I forget which one it was, but a professor, I passed by him and he was like, oh, hi, Kathleen. And I'm like, hello. I did not know who he was at all. I'm like, how did he know? How did he know?
Wow.
But yeah, so like that just shows that, like, the professors here care about their students, whether you're their actual student or not, or just, pass by them in the hallway. They're super helpful. always have a lot of office hours for students to go to them, or just they're always down to just talk and have random conversations.
Right.
Like my advisor, Dr. Joyner, last time I had class, we talked for like 10 minutes about his pets and his daughter and like, you know. So yeah, we have some really great professors here.
Next is, I am easily able to maintain a balance between school, work, and my personal life.
Yes, I would also agree with that. I feel like it's important that we actually have a well balance between all three. I do see some students who might, you know, focus a little more on their personal life or focus more on their academics. But in order to become a well-rounded person, I feel like you kind of need all three, because all three allow you to have a lot of positive like characteristics or things that you can experience that can make you a better person overall. And all three can provide you with different lessons that you can, you know, learn from and take with you. So yeah, I would definitely say all three aspects were important in my life, and that I would say I'm pretty well balanced in all three.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I maintain positive mental health and self-care habits.
Yes, I would also agree with that. One thing about college is that it's definitely a road trip, and everyone has their own story and their own narrative. Some are easier than others, which is perfectly fine. I do believe probably, I would say freshman and sophomore year, I was still finding my, you know, I was still defining what I considered, you know, taking care of my mental health and things like that. But over time, I did learn from that, in which I learned those tips and tricks from that. I was able to take with me from junior year and now on. So yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Since starting college, I have grown as a person both personally and professionally.
Yes, being a student ambassador was a big aspect in the professional way. It definitely allowed me to sharpen some of my skills on my resume. That include bettering or increasing my communication skills, my public speaking skills, how I present myself in public. Also just doing things on the computer, so like answering emails, answering phone calls, trying to, you know, effectively communicate things to, you know, high schoolers or their parents or et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So for our last question or statement, I made the right decision in picking Kean.
Yes, and yes. If I had to do this all over again, I would still pick Kean University. One thing that I like to tell high schoolers who are kind of college shopping, you'll realize not every college is for you. You realize each college has their own unique like environment and atmosphere, and it's all about finding the perfect one for you. It's kind of like a Goldilocks sense, where like, oh, this one's a little too, I don't know, a little too big, or like a lot of people here, like a little, you know, not modern enough for me.
Right.
And I feel like Kean is kind of the perfect fit for me. The environment here is there's all positive energy all the time. It's a easy way for you to get yourself out there on this campus you really like. Classroom sizes are about like 20-ish students, so you still have that close relationship with the students themselves along with the professors. The diversity here is really immaculate. Regardless of who you are, I feel like you'll always feel comfortable in more ways than one. And yeah, I can talk about Kean all day.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we have time constraints, and that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences with us. It's greatly appreciated, and we can't wait to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We hope that you have enjoyed our show and are excited to continue learning about not only how you can become part of the family here at Kean, but also what it's really like to be a college student. Once again, everyone, thank you for watching. We will see you next time on Keeping Up with Kean.